Welcome to Swift Level 1. We're going to get started teaching you how to develop apps. Now, to develop apps with Apple, first thing you need is an Apple ID. So we're going to go to your web browser. Here I've got Safari, and so I'm going to open that up, and I'm going up here to appleid.apple.com. And so if you go to that website, we'll go here, and then up here in the right corner, I'm going to go to Create Your Apple ID. Now when I click here, it takes me to a new page, and I enter things like my first name, last name, where I'm from, my date of birth, the email address, and you have to use an email address that's not already an Apple ID. And so maybe you could use a school email address or talk to your parents about a good email address to use if you don't already have one. If you already have an Apple ID, you can go ahead and just use that one, but this is to create a new one if you don't have one. So you'll go here, create some security questions, and then you'll be set. And so with the Apple ID, next we can go into Xcode. Now that you've created your Apple ID, or if you already had one and didn't need to create an Apple ID, we can go over to Xcode. So we're done with this screen here with the web browser, and what we're going to do is open up Xcode. Now you can maybe find it in your applications folder, and it's alphabetical down here in Xcode, or maybe you have it in your menu bar. I have it here in Xcode, or you can even hold down Command Space and search for Xcode, like this. And so I've got it down in the menu bar, so I'm going to open it up right here. And now it pops up and says, Welcome to Xcode. So you probably won't have any recent projects over here on the right. That's where things that we're working on recently will appear. So what I'm going to do is look at the options over on the left here. And I have Get Started with a Playground. That's a good way to experiment with code. Create a new Xcode project, or clone an existing project. So I can give a link to somewhere else on the internet that would pull in existing code. And so I'm just going to create a new Xcode project. And again, this is the way we can start from scratch to make something for iPhone or iPad or the Mac or the Apple Watch or Apple TV. So let's go to create a new Xcode project. Okay, we clicked here. Now we have an option of what kind of project we want. And so it's showing me I can do a single view app. That's the most basic type, just gives you the minimum things that you need to get started. You can make a game. You could even make an augmented reality app like Pokemon Go or other things. You can make all kinds of things. iMessage app, all kinds of good stuff. But we're just going to start with the most basic one so you can learn how to do all these cool things yourself from the very beginning. So with single view app selected and iOS selected, see we have different kinds of platforms here, but we want iOS and single view app selected. Now we're going to go to next down here at the right. All right, now here we have the product name. So it's what we want to name our app. And so here we're going to call it Welcome. And so that's going to be the name of our very first little app. And now you add a team account. And this add account is where you add your Apple ID. So I'm going to add a little Apple ID here. Add the password. And then click sign in. Okay, now you see that the Apple ID has been added up here. It recognizes me as Matt Waller. That's nice. And then we X out of this up at the top to make that go away. And now, team, we have two options. We have none or Matt Waller, the one we just added. And so I'm going to select that one. Organization name, I'm going to say Hello World Studio. So that'll be good. And now the organization identifier. Usually this part here, it showed up with something I had placed there before, but it gives you an example of how to do it. It's com for company dot your company dot welcome. So usually you have something like com or org, the way you would with a web address, google.com. Here it's reverse. We start with com, and then let's say dot hello world studio, and that's good. And then it will add the dot welcome, the name of our product, at the end of that. Okay, and down here the language we're going to use is Swift. Objective-C is the older original language that programmers would use to make iOS apps, but we're going to stick with Swift, which is the new one that Apple is moving toward, and it's really good language, and after all, you're in Swift level 1, so that makes sense. All right, and we can uncheck these. We don't need these right now, and so leave those unchecked if they're already unchecked, and we go to next down here. Bottom right again. Okay, and we're going to save this, and I'm going to save it under my desktop just for now. Usually you want to create a special file, a lot of times called developer, but for now let's just place this on the desktop and select it right here. And I'm going to have create git repository on my Mac. This is a good thing to keep check just for the future. And then we're going to hit create down on the bottom right. Okay. Now you're ready to get started in Xcode. And you see here in the middle, this is the editor area. This part in the middle is the editor. And it has stuff telling me about my app. You can see the display name is welcome. That's the name of the app that we gave it. Here's the bundle identifier that we chose, the version, the build number. These just represent like how old and what version it is. So this is our very first version, so it's version 1. It's our very first build 1, and a lot of other information here. And so we won't go over that right now. And here you can see on the left in what's called the navigation area, the navigation pane. In the navigation area, we have selected welcome up at the top, and that is our project. And so when we have this selected, the editor area in the middle is telling us all this information about our project. And so in this navigator, we have all kinds of different little tabs here up at the top, telling us all kinds of different information about different parts of our app. And here the files icon is where we get to look at all the files that are in our app. So we've got our welcome project, and inside our project we have two things. We have a welcome folder and a products folder. In the welcome folder we have the files with our code. And so yeah, so this is just kind of the skeleton of what a basic app looks like. So next, we're actually going to run it. And so it should show us a blank screen when we run it on what's called a simulator, which is a sort of like an iPhone that lives only on the computer. So if you tap this window, I'll show you where I went again. I'm up here, and I tap here where it says Matthew's iPhone. Instead of running it on my iPhone, which is what it wants to select, you may have it say initially generic iOS device or something. That's okay. You click here. Now we're going to choose all these simulators. And so these are things like iPads, iPhones. Down here at the bottom, here's the iPhone 10. That X signifies 10. And so the iPhone 10, we're going to tap. And then we're going to hit this play button. And we're going to see what happens. Here's a progress bar. It shows it's building, getting things ready, copying libraries. Now it's about to launch, and still launching, getting ready. Now it's attaching, and here it is. And here is a simulator running a blank app. We didn't add any code or anything to it, so it's just a white screen right now, but that will change in future lessons. So there's a way to get started, and again, this is a whole simulator. If we go here, then we can see other apps and things on here, and a settings app and a news app, maps and things, so it's pretending to be its very own iPhone. And again, here's the welcome app right there. All right, now we're ready to get started.